The four max games tend to be a lot of action, so it's always a lot of fun. I'm just going to start off 3-betting. We get overcalled and flop top pair. This is quite an interesting spot, actually. I'm actually going to check, expecting long hair to barrel off fairly often. He looks fairly aggressive. Green Hulk bets. I think he 4-bets 9s plus. I think I'm going to try and see if he will spew. I think my hand plays a little bit better by check raising with the pot size as it is. I don't think he barrels off too often. It's hard to flop a set. This would pretty much be my reasoning. Now when he peels the turn, I mean, he can definitely have 3s, 4s. I think I'm going to check call the turn over shove for value. I think he can definitely be floating this board fairly wide. I think my hand looks a little bit full of shit as well. This might be an absolute car crash. But I think I'm going to check call the turn over. Wow. Yeah, I think I'm just going to shove. I think he can potentially be floating my check raise. We only really lose to pocket 3s and pocket 4s. He 4-bets 9s plus. I think we're going to run into the hand, run into 3s or 4s fairly often. Yeah, but he does something fairly weird. With pocket 5s, so obviously our line he kind of felt was full of shit when we check raise this flop. I just checked the flop basically just because I think that long hair is likely to barrel off with his range. He's got an 80% flop c-bet and a 89% turn c-bet, so I think he's fairly likely just to barrel off with his most of his range. So betting just kind of becomes counterproductive against this particular player. So, I mean, Green Hulk's fairly tilted. These guys don't appear to be squeezing very much, so I'm just going to take a flop in position with King 10. This is definitely a board that I just expect him to attack. It's definitely a board that he can have something on a lot of the time as well. I think I'm going to call all 3 streets against this particular player, knowing what I know. I think the turn is a pretty easy check. And the river is also a little bit too thin to bet. Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument for betting the turn. I don't think we get called too much. Actually, we probably do get called by Queen 10, Jack 10. But I expect him, for the most part, to bet rather than check. So I think he's either like check folding or check raising. We flop a set on the top left table. The board runs out pretty much the worst possible run out for us. I'm just going to bet the river for value. I mean, it's fairly thin, but I think he's got enough 2 pairs. He already looks like a bit of a station. I think he donk leads most of his rivered flushes and straights. So I think there's definitely some value from his like combinations of two pairs and stuff to be had from betting the river. Actually, I'm just going to decide to flat here, I think. I want to kind of play a pot with this bad player. Pacaret's very solid. We haven't really got much of a dynamic going on, so I'm just going to raise this flop in the hope to induce some 3-bet bluffs. Also, it's definitely potentially that he's smacked this board fairly hard, but we've got the nut flush draw. We dominate some draws. I certainly am not fist pump getting it in, but we will run good, and obviously there'll be no pair up. Yep. I think the flop is closer than it looks, just because it's a min raise pot. And we're never getting our money in great shape here, and he can have connected with the board in a big way. We can almost guarantee that our overs are never live, unless he's got a hand like 6-3 of clubs, 9-7 of clubs, 9-6 of clubs, which I guess are all possibilities. So we'll wrap it up with that run good hand.